My name's Anthony. I am the owner, creator, and founder of Angel Club, and right now we're in my brother's old bedroom. We have turned it into what we call the Angel Club / podcast room. In order to explain how we got here, we have to kind of go back a few. Alright, so the Angel Club story really begins when I first started my first company, but not official company, because I was still young at the time. I didn't know how clothing and selling clothing worked. And it was when I started going on TikTok. And when I would watch TikToks, I would watch, of course, the funny videos and everything. But until I came across different pages that would sell embroidered hoodies. If you don't know what embroidered hoodies is, it's like a blank hoodie, and then you add it to like this automated sewing machine. And that sewing machine can make you any design you want on whatever you wanted. Clothes, like sweaters, pants, whatever you wanted. And I thought that was so fascinating. And I was like, that's a cool way to make money. And most of the time, the machine's doing most of the work for you. You're mostly only like changing some threads around and fixing the hoodie and adding the things. Like, it's very easy to do. We're kind of complicated to learn at first, but it intrigued me a lot, and I wanted to buy a machine, my own embroidery machine, so I could start doing that myself and start selling clothes. I don't know, ever since I was young, I always wanted to make my own money. I always wanted to start something I could run myself and make money from, like, make my own money, because when you're young, you don't have money, and I wanted money to I don't know what, actually. I just wanted money. Maybe it was from seeing my dad, because he owns a restaurant and a nightclub, so I would always see him do that. And I didn't want to work for him. No, not for any particular reason. I just wanted to work for myself. So I think I was just saving up money for that machine. I saved up money doing different jobs. If I was working for him, working at his events on the weekends or something like that, I saved up money. And I think the machine costs somewhere around $700, $800, because it's a pretty big machine. And I purchased the machine, and once it got here, I know for like the first 2 weeks I couldn't figure it out. Like, I understood everything, but for some reason my yarn that I was putting in wasn't working. I couldn't understand. I was like, I'm doing literally everything right, and it turned out to be I was using the wrong type of thread. So 2 weeks of like wasted, and I kind of almost gave up, but I kept trying and trying. And I finally found the thread that you're supposed to use, which is embroidery. It's special. Like, they tell you which one you should buy. But I ended up buying it, the thread I needed. And then that's when I began experimenting, trying to figure out the machine to really know how it works before I start selling stuff. And once I got a feel for it, you have to start buying files of what you want. Like, if you go on Etsy or somewhere like that, you can buy the designs already programmed. In order to put something on a hoodie, for example, you have to have a design. And you can't just take a picture, put it in the machine. It has to be programmed. It has to, like, somebody has to program it to have every single stitch. You can do it yourself. It's very complicated though. So like a little fast way to get designs is going on Etsy, paying like $1 or $2 for each design. I remember I went on Etsy and probably spent like $100 on like 20 different designs that I bought, so that if someone were to order a hoodie from me, they would have options to choose from. Like, I had a bunch of Nike ones that I would do, and just a whole bunch of random stuff, you know. I bought all the designs. I put them on a hard drive. I connected the hard drive to the machine, and I had like a list of things to choose from to put on the hoodie or whatever I was designing. Then that's when I started the Instagram page, and I needed to call myself something. So I was just looking around my room. Like, to be honest, I was just looking around trying to figure out what I should call my business. And I ended up going with Anthony's Closet, because I was just staring at my closet, and I was just like, Anthony's Closet sounds fine. And then boom, that's what I called it. I just made a whole bunch of stuff first, because I was like, how's somebody about to order from me if they don't know what I sell? So I just started making a whole bunch of things and putting it up on the Instagram page. Once there was a lot, that's when I was kind of like, oh, I'm taking orders. Like, DM me on IG if you want something. Let me know your size. And at the time, I wasn't ordering like blank hoodies. I would just go to Michael's, find the hoodie, and then bring it home and then embroider it. So if somebody were to order a small and a gray hoodie, I would go to Michael's first, purchase it, come back home, put it on. In the beginning, I was only doing local orders. Like, some people who went to my school, relatives or stuff like that, if they wanted something, they would tell me, and I would make it and I hand deliver them. And I got a few orders, and then that's when people would DM me from different states. And then that's when I began to figure out how to ship things and how to create shipping labels and stuff like that, which come in handy down the line. But at the beginning, it was so confusing, because it's a brand new world that I never stepped foot in, and I didn't know anybody else who sold clothes. So I was figuring it out by myself through YouTube tutorials. Then I slowly started to understand how to do that. So I would do different orders for people in different states and just around the school, you know. And people would start to recognize me. They would be like, oh, you're the guy who sells the sweaters, the embroidered sweaters. And I'd be like, yeah. And then we got a few orders like that. And that honestly lasted a pretty long time, because I remember I probably did it for like a year or two, or maybe a year and a half. I don't remember. It got to a point were I was kind of tired of doing stuff that other people wanted, like specialized hoodies for people. I don't know why. I mean, maybe I just didn't like what they were asking me. Like they would ask me for something, I'd be like, oh, I mean, if you want it, I'll make it, but that's not something I would order. So that's when I began experimenting, making my own logo for Anthony's Closet. I made like different types of logos. I was using like random apps. I didn't have nobody design it for me. I was just making whatever. Actually, I think I did. I think I did make somebody design it for me. It was a really basic logo, and then I would make that into like business cards and stuff like that. But yeah, I made my own logo for Anthony's Closet, and then I began doing like stuff for me only. Like it would be Anthony's Closet, and it would be like a bear on it. Anthony's Closet Halloween edition. Anthony's Closet whatever. And I would just make these for me because I would have them available if somebody wanted to order one, but nobody would order it because they don't know. They don't want like an Anthony's Closet clothing. They want something that they specifically ordered and like, oh, I want this Nike logo over here and have like a bear right here or something, you know, something random. They didn't want Anthony's Closet. And then I would just wear myself. I was really fascinated by like something I drew, created, and then it somehow turned into something that I was wearing. And I would just do that a lot. I made custom pieces for myself a lot. I would wear them by myself. And then that's when the idea of like starting a brand, you know, came up. And I would also see TikToks about it where it would just pop up people like, oh, I just started my brand, and then they would show all the stuff, and I was like, that's really cool. But that's a whole different field. That's like a whole bunch of other stuff that I had no idea about. So I just kept doing the same thing, watching YouTube tutorials, watching TikToks about it, until I finally got like an idea of how to start and what I would want to make. So before I even started the brand, I was just sketching stuff out on my notebooks in school, because I wasn't paying attention either way in the classes. And yeah, I was just thinking about different ideas and just designs I could make on a hoodie or shirt. And at the time I was still doing Anthony's Closet because like, why not? I already had the machine, I already bought it, and it was like, it was doing whatever, you know. I wasn't making crazy money. I kind of was losing money because like I was just really bad at organizing and running that. I was like a little kid. I was like, what, 16, 17 doing that? No, definitely 16 or 15 doing that. And I would still get some orders, and I would handwrite like thank you notes to everybody and stuff like that. But on the other side, I was still trying to figure out how to do this brand thing. And what I realized, and what everybody told me, you have to save money. Money is the only way to start a brand, and that means you got to work for your money. And that's when I started working at my dad's restaurant. I worked for his restaurant for I think like a whole summer. I would work Mondays through Fridays, you know, do everything. On the weekends, I would clock in at 5 p.m. and I would leave at 5 a.m., which didn't result the best because I hit a deer and then I hit a tire. It was just wasn't the best because I was going home at 5 a.m. I was tired. I saved up money at the end of the summer, and then that's when I began thinking about where do I buy the hoodies and everything. I eventually found a website that sold blank hoodies. In my mind, I already had an idea of what I was going to put on them. It was very basic. It was just puff print because puff print at the time was kind of brand new and it was coming up. Everybody wanted a puff print hoodie. And I was inspired by the Yeezy hoodie with the letters, just a few letters on the hoodie. And I was just like, oh, and I was trying out different words. I remember I made a whole bunch of samples with different words on it, but I eventually came up with the phrase made in heaven. I really liked how that looked. And then I eventually found this hoodie that was good quality and looked how I wanted it to look. And especially the thing I was most critical of was the color green it was. Because I knew I wanted it to be green, a forest green, and I wanted it to be like a very specific color. And I remember buying a whole bunch of like green hoodies on this website that sold blanks. And eventually, after like the fourth hoodie I ordered, it was like perfect in my eyes. I thought it was like the best hoodie. And to this day, I think it's still a pretty good hoodie on a budget, you know. So with all my money, I bought a heat press machine that I still use. I bought the vinyl to print out the letters. I bought the machine to cut out the letters. And then I bought the bulk order of hoodies. And I just wasted all my money on that stuff, you know? My money gone into all this stuff. Then fast forward to when the hoodies came, the green hoodies came. It was like a few boxes, big boxes. And then I was like, damn, like this is actually becoming a reality. That's when I began to figure everything out. Because I literally bought everything before I actually knew how to use it. So there was a lot of trial and error. A lot of messed up hoodies that I didn't get to sell because they got messed up. But eventually I got the hang of it, and I started beginning to make my first hoodie for my brand. And if you guys seen it, it's like the green hoodie that says made in heaven. And then I added Angel Club on the sides of the hood because I was like, they need to know the brand. So I was like, put it on the hood because I didn't know where else to put it. And yeah, that's where I began. I learned how to do it. I did everything by hand. Each order was made by me. I was buying my own packaging. I was buying my own business cards and everything. But yeah, that's when I started to figure out how everything worked. And then there was a lot of trial and error. And that's when everything started to come in. That's when I started to figure everything out. I understood how to use the machines finally. But after the idea of starting a brand came in my head, that's when I realized I wouldn't be able to keep the name Anthony's Closet, because that idea or that name only worked for what I was doing at the time, which was embroidered hoodies. Because technically, I was selling stuff that people wanted. It was whatever they asked for, that's what I would make. And that's why I kind of named it Anthony's Closet, because you're ordering stuff from my closet. I don't know how, like, what I was thinking, but it made sense to me at the time. But for my brand, I wouldn't want it to be called Anthony something, because that would somehow sound like merch, because I'm using my name. So I had to start thinking about what's a new name I could call my brand. And the initials for Anthony's Closet are AC. And I had made the sweater I was wearing, and it was a C, and I put like fucking hearts around it, the day I was born, and then I think I put a halo on top of the A. And I really liked that design at the time. I don't know if I like it anymore, but at the time I remember I made that and I was like, I really like this hoodie or this sweater. And I kept looking at it and I was like, there's something here that I could use for the brand name. And since I saw the A and the C, I was like, let me keep the A and the C, because that's what was on the sweater. And I liked those letters together. So I started brainstorming what's a word for A and a word for C. And since the halo was on top of the A, I put angel, and then I kept saying, what's C? And then I was like, angel community or some shit like that. I had like random ass ideas. And then eventually I got to Angel Club, and luckily it wasn't taken. So I took the name Angel Club, and then that's when everything else started to form. And once I got the name Angel Club, I had to make a logo, but at the time I didn't know any designers or anything like that. So I literally looked up a font, the one I liked the best. I put it in front of a brown background, and then that was my logo. And it was very basic. And at the time, it just worked, you know? I didn't need anything too complicated. I was just starting out, so that was perfect. I remember every night, I would just be working on it, you know? I think I ordered around 80, 85 hoodies maybe, because that's the most I could afford. I ordered all the business cards, the packaging, very basic everything. Everything was very, very basic. I ordered stuff to ship out orders, because in my mind, I thought I was going to sell out. Just being cocky. Like, I wasn't like confident, but I was just like, for some reason I just thought it was gonna do good. And at the time, I wasn't on social media. At the time, I probably had like maybe 200, 300 Instagram followers, probably had like 5 followers on TikTok. I wasn't doing the Polaroids or anything at the time. I was just starting out. And this is what a lot of people don't know, because about the green hoodies now, we'll get into it, they sell out, but it's far from now. It takes a while for them to sell out, because like I said, I was in my room every night. I had a table in there, and I was just making the hoodies every night, figuring stuff out, trying to figure out how to make a website. And I remember my dad would come like home, because he would get home late from the restaurant, the nightclub, because he owns it, so he has to be there late. And I remember he'd come home like at 4 or 5 in the morning. He'd see me in my room working on my hoodies, and I'd kind of tell him what I was doing. And I don't know what he was thinking at the time, but he just saw me doing that. So it was like an everyday thing that I would do. Come home from school, start working on this. And then that was the only thing I was focusing on. I wasn't focusing on like the marketing or anything like that. I was just focusing on making the hoodies, because it took a long time, and packaging them up. So after like few days, few weeks of doing that, had finally finished. And I had already posted a date on when the hoodies would release. For the photos, it was just me. The hard part when you start a brand, or at least for me, was finding people to model for it, because I would try to ask friends and stuff around the school, but nobody was really willing to like take the photos of the hoodie and everything. I'd be like, you get the free hoodie, you know, you just got to be in the photo, but nobody really like agreed to it, you know. So it was hard. And that's when I learned how to duplicate myself. I would duplicate myself for photos in order to like promote the hoodie, and even then it wouldn't do good. And I still thought in the back of my mind these hoodies would sell out for like a long time. And I remember I had already dropped the date on when they were releasing, and it was like the day before. I hadn't even like figured out the website yet, so I stayed up that entire night. It was a school night too. I stayed up the entire night trying to figure out how to finish this website, and somehow I ended up doing it. You know, I was able to set up the website. It was very, very basic. It's not how it looks like right now. Like, it was way more basic back then, but I figured it out nonetheless. And the next day I went to school. I would post about me like dropping the hoodies, like they drop tomorrow and everything. Eventually they dropped the next day, and then I think we definitely got only one order that day. We only had one order, and at the time I think I was selling them for like 60, because I was just like, it took me so much time to me selling for 60, but they didn't do good. Like, the drop was a failure. We only sold one hoodie, and it was like a very like a painful feeling, because like you just put all this time, all these weeks figuring out, you wasted all this money that you made throughout working a whole summer just on that, for it to flop. I kept trying to promote it. I would make TikToks, but at the time I didn't know how to use TikTok that well, so I was just doing like whatever videos. None of them seemed to work either. It got to a point where I wasn't selling anything, you know? I was still stagnant. I wasn't getting new followers. I wasn't selling anything. So I had kind of given up on them. I had probably like 7 big ass boxes in my room filled of hoodies already made, ready to go. And then I just remember like closing the lids on each of those boxes and stacking them in my closet, putting them in around the room where I wouldn't be able to see them, hiding them in the garage, you know, just out of sight, out of mind, because I didn't want to see them and they weren't selling. And I was like, that was a failure. So I didn't want to see it. For a while, that's how it was. I didn't open the hoodies. If somebody were to order, I'd go grab one. I probably sold like 5 for the next couple months. After that, I was not selling anything. I probably sold 5 for the next 6 months after that, after the release date. This is when we kind of go into, that was probably junior year, and then this is when we're going on to senior year. And at the time, there was no plans for after high school. There was nothing on my mind. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but in the back of my brain, I feel like I always wanted to be somehow like doing content creation, because that's what I would watch. I would watch YouTube. I would watch Logan Paul's, David Dobrik, Sidemen, everybody like that. That's what I grew up on. That's who I wanted to be. And I feel like I didn't say it that much, but in the back of my mind, I always knew that. Even in like old photos and videos, I would still try to do vlogs. I have videos on my phone where I would try to do vlogs. And I just never posted them because I was too shy to post them because I didn't know what people would think. And even like in art class, there would be like, draw your future. I drew me in front of a camera. I even ended up buying that camera, but that's later on. But in my mind, somehow, I just always wanted to be an influencer. And then low-key, I kind of thought it was going to happen for some reason. Like, I was so confident it was going to happen, and I had no idea why. I just knew it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, when it was going to happen. I just knew it was going to happen. I still hadn't started social media. Senior year was right around the corner. And if you guys know, because I've talked about it quite a lot, that's when I bought the Polaroid camera. Like, I think probably on the first week of school, I bought a Polaroid camera. Our class had a senior sunrise, so all the seniors met up there. And then for some reason, I was just like, let me just bring the Polaroid to take photos of that day, you know, capture some cool moments. I had just bought the Polaroid camera the day before, and it was like a Thursday or Friday. I brought it with me. We're just messing around, me and my friends. And then the idea of taking Polaroids every single day came up, and it was inspired by Logan Paul's 99 Originals idea, where he took 99 photos for 99 days in a row. I had really liked that series. That series was really well documented. I don't know what's the proper word. It was just a really cool series. And he did it like for, I don't know what his main purpose of starting it was, but nonetheless, he made videos about it and they were all entertaining. I didn't care about the NFT part of it because it was like somehow related to that. I didn't care about that part. I cared more about just the photos and the story. I just thought it was really cool to take a Polaroid photo and then explain why you took that photo. So I took that idea, I integrated it with taking a photo every day of my senior year, because I was just like, everybody goes through their senior year and then people say it's really fun. So I was like, let me document it. I took like 273 photos or something like that in a row. And that's when I began TikTok. I just started posting, you know. The second video did really well for some reason. It was my friend on top of a table, and the video did so well. It got a couple thousand views. And I thought it was going to be like that forever. But right after that video, it was like one video did bad, then that video did really good. And then every video, like the next, like 50 after that did okay. Like they were barely reaching 10,000 views. The goal for every day was to try to reach at least 10,000 views. And I was putting so much work into those videos. The brand stuff was out of my mind. I kind of forgot about it. I kind of didn't want to go back to it. And it wasn't until we started finally growing on TikTok, that's when I actually started to talk about my brand. I didn't even click in my head to talk about my brand. And I remember at the time, we're probably on like episode 200 or like maybe 150 of the Polaroid series. And I also began to do day in the lives. I would post a video of me taking a Polaroid and explaining it. And then after I dropped that video, an hour later, the day in the life would come out, where I'd show people what I do in a day. And people would always see me rock this hoodie. So I started to talk about it. I remember I turned it into a Polaroid. I would talk about how I started a brand, how it flopped. And then that's when I just started to talk about it. And people were like, oh, where do I buy? Where do I buy? So then that's when I talked about the website. After I dropped the website, people started purchasing. And it wasn't like 1,000 orders, you know, because there's only 80 hoodies made. So it was like 2 orders a day. And I was just like, wow, we're getting 2 orders a day. This is crazy. And that was just consistent, like 2 orders a day. And then in my day in the lives, I would show me packaging each hoodie. I would rate everybody a a note, just like how I did for when I would make custom embroidered hoodies. I would just write people notes like thank you for purchasing, throw on my business card and everything. And it started to get traction. People were just buying. It started to become 2 orders, 3 orders a day, 4 orders a day, until we eventually sold out. And then that moment was pretty cool because of what follows after. I remember when I sold out, I was so happy. I remember posting about it on my Instagram, like we finally sold out, and it was probably like almost exactly a year. Like it was like a year and a few days maybe that it took to sell out. And I was like, wow, like it took us almost exactly a year to sell out, but we did. And I knew it was only a little bit of hoodies that we're selling, but it was still like an achievement. And then I know at the time I was talking to Logan Paul's videographer because you know the whole Polaroid series was revolved around Logan Paul's idea, but it wasn't just Logan Paul's idea. It was Logan and Logan's videographer's idea, and they're the ones who worked on the 99 Originals project. And his name's Kevin, and he had already followed me on TikTok, so I think I reached out to him because I knew the hoodies were gonna sell out because of how the pace was going. I told him, I was like, let me send you out some stuff. So I sent him out some hoodies, and I think it was like around the week after we sold out that I think Kevin had gave this hoodie to George because George is a Christian and he really liked the hoodie, so he wore it on an episode of Impulsive, which is crazy because it was like one of his last episodes on Impulsive. But he had worn it on Impulsive. I remember seeing it and I was just like, it blew my mind. Kevin would send me videos of George wearing it. I did not know he was going to wear it on the podcast. And the podcast he wore it on was an episode of Jake Paul. And it was crazy because I was just like, they're not going to shout it out or anything. And they didn't. But for some reason, that episode, Logan Paul literally read the hoodie. He was just like, made in heaven. And then they just like focused on it for a while. And I was like, what the hell? Like, that's so crazy. Like, he could have worn anything that day. And the one day he chose to wear this green hoodie, they kind of mentioned it in the episode. And then at the time, I don't even think Logan Paul even knew who I was. Because I was still doing the series. I was probably like on day 100 and something. But it was just a crazy ass like day. I literally watch it Impulsive every single day when I would do the hoodies. Like, I would have it in the background. And it was just like, you know, Logan Paul, my idol. And then seeing George wear it on the podcast, it just blew my mind. Once I saw George wear the green hoodie, I was like, I need to have a new drop because I have nothing to sell no more. And people still want the green one. And a rule I set for myself and the brand was I would never restock anything I release. So this hoodie would never come back. There's literally 80 limited pieces are scattered around the world. I don't know where all of them are, but there's literally 80 pieces. And whoever has one will like someday in the future be able to sell it for like 3 times what it's worth. And I always say that. But then that's why I was like, what other colors could I do? Maybe keep, since people like the design of the hoodie, just change the colors. So that's when I was like, everybody loves black. Let me get black. And then luckily the company that made these green hoodies also had a black colorway. So I ordered, this time I ordered around 200. Yeah, I think for the black hood, since I ordered 80 for the green hoodies, for the black hoodies, I was like, I'm gonna need more. It's gonna sell out fast. So instead of the 80, I ordered 200 black hoodies. And I remember it was like so much more work. And I really underestimated how much it was gonna be and how much work it was gonna take. So once they got here, I began working on that. And at the same time, I was doing the Polaroid series. So I was trying to balance both of them at the same time. So it was like a lot of long nights of just being in my room, going and adding the words, because this takes a while and it's hot because you're using a 280 degree heat press, and then just slamming it, switching it, slamming it, putting a new hoodie, slamming it, bring a new hoodie, put the letters, slamming it, and then there's a continuous process. After that, I would take out every single string because these hoodies came with like a string for the hoodie, and I hated it. I don't like strings on hoodies. So I took every single one of them out. I folded them up real nice. I bought these little Ziploc bags. I put them in the Ziploc bag. I even bought like the little thing to put like a label on your hoodie. But instead of putting a label on it, I used a little like gun machine thingy. I used it to attach the little baggie of the hoodie string. So the hoodie string would go right on like I think the back of the hoodie. And then if you wanted to, you could add the string back into the hoodie, but I wouldn't sell them with the hoodie because I just didn't like how that looked. So if you wanted to, you had the option of putting it back on, but I'm selling them without them because I think they look better that way. And yeah, it was just a few weeks, a big ass process doing that. And this time, since like I guess people saw how it sold out last time, this is when everybody was more willing to be in the photos and everything. And by that time I had already bought a camera. I grabbed like, I don't know, 7 or 8 of my friends. I gave them all free hoodies, and we went to the mall because we had nowhere else to go. We didn't have a budget to go to a studio. We didn't have budget for a photographer. We didn't have none of that. You know, I was like in debt with these hoodies. So I took my friends to the mall, the closest mall to me, which was Annapolis Mall. And we just went around, recorded everything, took photos around the mall. And that's what we used to market the hoodies, like those photos that we took that day. And I don't even know how many photos we took, but we took the best photos we could with the most knowledge that we had. And yeah, I would just post all of those photos on Instagram. I would talk about it in my TikToks. I'll tell everybody they're releasing tomorrow. They're releasing in 2 weeks, you know, or whatever the date was. I added everything to the website. And I remember this drop was crazy because in my mind, just like last time, I thought they were gonna sell out, but I was trying to calm down those feelings because I was like, I thought it was gonna sell out last time, so I shouldn't think it's gonna sell out this time, you know. So in my mind, I was like, my mind was literally fighting itself. It was like, it's gonna sell out, and the other half of my mind was telling me it's not gonna sell out. Don't get your hopes up. And I remember it was like 5 p.m. It was sometime in April because I know WrestleMania was the same day or the next day of when I released these hoodies, which is crazy. So it was like 5 p.m. and I was on FaceTime with my friend, and I was literally talking to him as I was publishing the website. People were already on the website waiting. It would tell you like a couple hundred people are on the website waiting for the hoodie to drop. I remember pressing publish, and the hoodies literally sold out in less than 5 minutes. 200 hoodies gone like that, and that was a crazy feeling. Like I was literally like going crazy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing because I was so like not traumatized, like a less version of traumatized. I don't know what's the proper word. From last time for only getting 1 order to this time getting 200 orders like that first day, my mind was exploding. I couldn't believe it. That was just a crazy feeling. That was a crazy ass day. I remember getting the orders, and the worst part was that same night I ended up getting sick. I literally have 200 orders ready to go, like ready to get shipped out. Shipping labels I had to get printed out, and I was sick. I literally couldn't get out of bed, and it was the worst feeling because I was just like, I need to like start shipping out these orders, but I'm sick. I don't want to transfer it on. So I waited a day. I think I watched WrestleMania with my brother, and then the next day I felt kind of better, so I started printing out the labels. And at the time I didn't have this machine that I have now, which prints out like sticky labels. At the time I had to use the printer downstairs, and I had to print out every shipping label separately on one regular 8x11 or 9x11 piece of paper. And I would have to cut each shipping label out and then use tape on the edges. And yeah, I had to use what I had. You know, at the time I was in debt, so that whole process took like maybe 2 days to fully ship out every order because at the time I had nobody to help me. I would just do it myself, and I kind of denied help from anybody. I wanted to do it all by myself, so I literally did everything by myself. I think that day I ended up going to sleep at like 8 a.m. But I remember I shipped out as many orders as I could, and it was a crazy feeling because I was just like, I can't believe this is real. And then that just motivated me. And the next drop wasn't until like a year later after the black hoodies.